Okay, good morning. My name is Isabella Pescarmona, and today I'm presenting some findings from my PhD research thesis that I developed at the University of Turin in Italy. I will discuss some issues regarding the implementation of complex instruction, which we refer to as CI, in some multicultural classroom in Italian primary school. The title of my presentation is Creativity and Competence in Experimenting Complex Instruction from the Perspective of Pupils. Okay. I chose CI, which was developed by Elizabeth Cohen, for its great potential for intercultural education. And I used this strategy to explore critically what it meant to a group of 6 teachers and their students to undertake a process of educational innovation in their schools. What I would like to focus on in the... Oh, I'm sorry. The screen does not collaborate with me. Okay. What I would like to focus on in this session is the perspective of students on the CI experiment itself. Okay? In this paper, I will explore what happened in the groups during the CI experiments, what meanings pupils gave to them, and in what terms CI was an effective way of learning and gave new opportunities for low-status students. Research methodology. I used ethnography for researching and gathering data in 4 multicultural primary school classrooms for almost 2 years, twice or 3 times a month, from December 2007 to May 2008, during everyday lessons, skill builders, and the CI experiments. Ethnography also provided me with a theoretical framework for analyzing that data. By means of this, I interpreted reality as a social construct through which people gave meaning to school life. This methodology is also a way to voice the insiders' perspectives. Pupils at school. For this presentation, I selected and described 2 different school contexts. The first is the second-year class in the center of Bologna, which I call the professional students. And the second one is a 4th-year class in the Apennines near Bologna, which I call the players. Each school context contributed to the development of different of the competence of different pupils, and pupils themselves contributed to the making of specific rules and interaction modes. Now I shall describe the 3 pools of competencies: school competencies, child competencies, and cooperative competencies, which I created to describe the meaning given by pupils to the staying and learning at school. Then I shall analyze how such competencies interacted with the CI experiment, with the implementation of complex instruction.
Isabella,
Yeah?
can you just very briefly explain what CI is?
What CI, okay.
What are the special characteristics?
Okay, CI was developed by Elizabeth Cohen at Stanford University, and it has the specific aim of equalizing the participation of each student in group work. She started from a sociological theory about the classroom, and she noticed that also in group work, in cooperative work, high status members have more opportunities to participate and so to learn. So Elizabeth Cohen created some rules to for planning for planning a cooperative work, and they are the delegation of authority, the use of multiple intelligences in creating the tasks, and assigning specific feedback to low status students. I summarize. I hope it's okay. Okay, and
I never heard that term, professional student, or people.
Yes.
In
I created these terms because I observed for 2 years for classes, and I tried to describe the rules of each classroom, the social rules, that are based on different interaction modes and different meanings, because pupils in different contexts give different meanings to school life. And I think that this interacted with the CI experiment in the classroom. Okay? Okay, so I described the school competencies. The professional students class was characterized by school competencies, such as being on time, doing tasks correctly, having a working attitude, privileging teacher-pupil conversation, and avoiding sanctions. This refers to both school and teacher. In this context, the status criterion was being a good student. And I noticed that there was a hierarchy among the students in the class, which was based on this criterion. So, low status pupils didn't usually achieve good marks, and therefore were excluded from the competition for attracting the teacher's attention. On the other hand, the previous class was characterized mainly by child competencies. This regarded the peer group, who were animated by what I call the spirit of play. Illegal activities, attempt at reducing work time, and bargaining skills were at the core of the classroom rules. So, being able to carry out negotiation and forming alliances were the criteria to be accepted and gain popularity in the class. Otherwise, a pupil would be living on the margins and become low status. Then, C, cooperative competencies, as we well know, were developed in these classes through skill builders and class discussions. The question is, how did this pulse of competence influence the CI experiment? Dealing with CI for professional students. The first reaction of professional students was disappointment and anxiety. Because of the change in the classroom activities, disoriented them. A pupil said, how are we doing history today? And another one asked, what happens if I do it wrong? They found themselves out of their comfort zone. So in groups, they tried to re-establish the learned order and acted with school competencies. For example, they were looking for the only correct solution. They listening to high-status group members and asking teachers about critical points instead of discussing them with their peers. This helped professional students to work in an orderly way and then directly at the final performance. But it was also a cause of competition, especially among high-status members. who often did the task in place of other members who were treated just as simple neighbors. In this perspective, cooperation became more of a patronizing attitude towards the less skilled than a mutual interdependence of intelligences and resources. But professional students also experimented with cooperative competencies, combining them with school competencies. This improved the performance level of the group and developed pupil interest in trying out the new cooperative roles. Encouraged by the new rules, sometimes low-status pupils denounces injustices. For example, one of them said, "Will somebody listen to me? I understand the task." And they used the group roles as a means of asserting their position within the group. A pupil said, "I am the facilitator," while grabbing back the instruction sheets. Remarkably, there was a group consisting of middle achievers that organized their work task in a truly cooperative way by taking into account the ideas of each member and created a beautiful song. At that point, cooperative competencies started seeping into the routine of this classroom. Dealing with CI for players. Their reaction to CI was excitement and an eager anticipation of fun. A pupil said, "I will be doing grammar today." Great. And another one, "If I make a mistake, will I be out?" They applied their child competencies in their group work, transforming the original meaning of the task. Sometimes they invented new rules to make the task more exciting for themselves and redistributed cooperative roles in an underhand manner. They preferred using counter rhymes or the majority rule rather than engaging in a real discussion and achieving a shared solution. This behavior could help them experiment new and unforeseen solutions, but it may also cast the group task adrift. In this perspective, cooperation was often reduced to bargaining skills or informal agreements based on status amongst peers. As a result, the players did not develop equal opportunities for all. But players also experimented with the cooperative competencies, which improved their capacity to deal with a school task using neutral roles and norms instead of the peers one. In a smaller group, low-status students had the opportunity to intervene more frequently, and the other members started to recognize their contribution. A pupil said, "Any one of us may come up with a bright idea, so we should listen to everybody." And this was exactly what happened in a group where a shy boy proposed to use a rap rhythm and a lover achiever organized a perfect staging for their performance, for the song, for the final song. Therefore, cooperative norms broke crystallized peer relationships. Conclusion. What emerged from my observations is that both professional students and players had a specific way of dealing with CI. These pupils were active participants in this process of change. They were not just passive recipients of the new practice. In fact, they did not use cooperative competencies just as they had learned them, but they interwove them with their habitual way of learning and being at school. I mean using school competencies and child competencies. When they found the new task too complex or confusing, They often went back to the set of competencies they were more familiar with. On the other hand, when they perceived they were able to cope with the CI task, they took the plunge and developed new solutions. They differentiated in their strategies depending on how easy or how difficult they found the new cooperative task. These pupils shifted between resisting innovation and changing the culture of their classroom, so as to make it more equal. Second point, the students' different ethnic origins did not influence the cooperative learning process. It was just a component of the classroom interactions. What affected the results of the CI experiments was the pre-existing classroom context and its competencies. Such elements influenced the original meaning of cooperative learning. Therefore, CI has the potential to be a powerful and innovative means of teaching and learning. It can break the usual classroom rules and the hierarchy by giving more opportunities to low-status students. However, this change is not to be taken for granted. The culture of the classroom context needs to be analyzed, or at least taken into further consideration by researchers and educators. If we ignore the school and the peer culture, educational strategies that aim at creating a more equitable classroom can easily miss their target, no matter how pleasant or fruitful they may result in other schools or contexts. Now, I would like to suggest some questions for a pair work discussion or for a plenary discussion. Could the pools of competence I created be helpful in your teaching context? Would the need for investigating unsuccessful experiments be a way to overcome difficulties in implementing cooperative learning at school? And what kind of changes would be needed for an effective implementation of cooperative learning? Thank you for your attention. No, it doesn't. Doesn't work. Okay. Yeah.
Just ask, it's fascinating because I love the idea of the status, because I'm looking at something similar. But how do the students identify this low status?
Okay.
Sorry, did I miss? Oh, I don't know if I missed that.
Okay. When I spoke about low status pupils, in my research I identified some students in each classroom. According to the teacher's point of view, and according to what I observed during 1 year. And I observed that the pupils recognize this hierarchy in the classroom. And this hierarchy was different in different contexts. For example, in fact, I say that for players, the status criterion was based on peer culture, so on bargaining skill, on some speaker collection, or having the same hobbies and so on. Instead of in the other class, in the professional students class, was the status criterion was being a good student. They were like this, very organized. They have their hand and say, "Okay, teachers, I know it, miss." It's very different from what happened in the other class, where pupils try to reduce work time and plays with others. They did many illegal activities behind their things on the table, on the desk. And so what I would like to say is that cooperative learning interacted with the pre-existing culture of the classroom. And in this point, and this could change the original meaning of cooperative learning. Because in my thesis I analyzed the process of an educational innovation with cooperative learning at 3 levels. The teacher group, from the point of view of a teacher group who decided to develop new CI teaching units, and so how they interpreted complex instruction and which problems they had to deal with. What each teacher did in her particular school and classroom, which problems they met, and which strategies she decided to act. And then the pupil's point of view, the complex instruction from the point of view of pupils. I don't know if I answered your question.
I just wanted to see what I was interested in saying the players.
Yeah.
It could have been just someone who maybe wasn't popular, whereas in the professionals might have been more the students.
Mm-hmm.
People seem to be really
Yeah, they use the different interaction modes in classroom, and it depends on the teacher, but also on the school context, actually. Because in the city center of Bologna, the school is very big and is very well organized. So also teachers are very organized, and pupils. In the Apennines, in a little town in mountains, the school is the only cultural center. It is the only place where the pupils meet each other, because they live far from the school and far from each other. So in that particular context, the peer relationships are more important than the student, than being a good student. It's my point of view.
So you have four different classrooms with 2 layers and 2 professionals?
No, I decided for this term, for this presentation, I tried to translate what I wrote in Italian, and I followed 4 classes, one in the city center of Bologna, one in the mountains, and the other 2 in the countryside. I try to collect data in different contexts. Yeah.
You mentioned it's ethnography.
Yeah.
How did you collect the data? Was it journals or recordings or?
Okay. I used the participant observations and interviews with teachers, not with pupils. I spent 2 years in each classroom. In the first year, I observed the everyday lessons, and then the second year, the implementation of complex instruction. And with teachers, I observed them in classroom. I was a facilitator, a supervisor when they were creating new teaching, new cooperative learning teaching units. And at the end, I interviewed them, but it was just a way to confirm my interpretation, because ethnography points the attention on the point of view of researcher, and it's a result of an overlapping perspective, mine and the teachers and the pupils' perspective. I don't know if I answer your question. In fact, one pupil draw a picture of me with my agenda and my pen, because all the time I'm writing, and I decided in the class I moved all the time, because I take notes near the teacher, also at the back, and I also follow the pupils in the garden and during breaks, because so I collected many data from their point of view. I played with them. It was very tiring. I play with them, and that's why I do. Then my point of view was starting from the concept of the school culture. So the set of the implicit rules that make sense to be at school, and that which we always often take for granted, but they exist. I also started from the concept of agency. Pupils and teachers were not just passive recipients of a new method, but they re-elaborated it. They are able to create their own interpretation of reality. And then I focus in this paper on the interaction modes.
Excuse me, Isabella. Can I just ask you about, in your, I think it was the second last slide, one of the concluding points.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about ethnic difference wasn't an important factor. I'm just wondering how you measure something like that, and what were the things that you looked at that led you to
Yeah,
that point?
yes, I understand. For example, in the players class, there were two pupils coming from Albania. One of them was at the top of the hierarchy, and the other one was at the bottom. So it doesn't matter, because one of them was very good in sticker collection, for example, and in interacting with other pupils in classroom. The other one was very shy and was unable to part in football competition or other. So he was progressively excluded from the interaction amongst pupils. According to my observations, different ethnic origins does not affect so much the experiment of the eye, and also the life in classroom, because I started from another point of view, is the interaction modes and the agency. So each pupil has a particular ethnic origin, has a particular culture, but he is not that culture. It's just a part of him. He could decide to use it or not, or to use the gender, or to use the hobbies, the other abilities. It's like a puzzle, and just one. The ethnic origins is just one of the piece. That's my point of view. Thank you. Other questions?
Okay, thank you
very much, Isabella. That was lovely.
Thank you.